Business Live today is brought to you by GCB Bank.
You're welcome back. Now, government got more than the amount it was looking for in its historic 10-year cedi bond. This means the cost of long-term borrowing locally now has a benchmark interest rate. George Biafe has more on why some are excited by this development, whilst the rest are still raising questions.
Government yesterday accepted 438 million Ghana cedis worth of bids from investors after it got 2 times more than the 200 million cedis it targeted. It also agreed to pay investors an interest of 19% over the next 10 years. For some, this could be described as good, looking at the current challenges with the economy, again with projections by the IMF and World Bank of things improving from next year. The cost of settling this bond could reduce significantly before 2026. However, others have argued that the 19% might be too high and not good for businesses that would want to borrow over that period. They have also argued that looking at the country's rising interest payment, a 15% could have been better to help reduce the cost of servicing these debts. Government is hoping to raise 60 billion Ghana cedis through bonds and treasury bills by the close of this year. About 9.3 billion cedis has been set aside as interest payment for 2016.
Meanwhile, senior finance lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Lord Mensah, tells Joy Business, although he applauds government on the bond issuance, the interest rate is not good for cost of borrowing.
We're trying to find a situation where our interest rate structures will be in such a way that it will be upward sloping, where the long-term issues will have higher rates than short-term securities. Looking at the 19 that we've started now, achieving that objective of changing our interest rate structures, I think it will be difficult to realize. So it's going to have impact on cost of borrowing. If you look at funds and you can lock your funds for 19%, bearing any unforeseen, all things being equal, holding it for 19% over 10 years, and you look at the risk that will come if you are to invest on short-term basis and trying to roll over, which you'll be facing interest rate risk. Of course, every fund or investor would like to put his money in this type of bond. And trust me, that will call for higher increase in interest rate when a private business or any other business apart from the government is trying to assess.
In another development, economists at Data Bank, Courage Mate, has also been assessing the impact of this maiden bond issue on the private sector as well as the economy as a whole. He was speaking on the marketplace.
First of all, we don't have a curve that will serve as the benchmark. This should have been the curve for corporate bond issuances of this same maturity. Now, if the government is accepting 19%, a corporate bond will have to accept 19% plus a corporate premium, and that takes us in excess of 20% towards the mid-20s or even higher. And if you consider the fact that a lot of SMEs whose businesses generate a return on equity in the region of the 20s, that's what it means is that cost of capital is going to wipe out the return on equity. So if you attract a debt of 10 years, then you're virtually going to use your returns to service or pay back the debt. In the short to medium term, the government would be able to get this long-term funding and use it to refinance the shorter end of the curve. And so you could see that there will be a reduction in the short-term interest rate. But then in the medium to long term, when the repayment or amortization is due, if the sinking fund strategy does not yield the desired result so that you accumulate funds from the sinking fund to amortize, then you have to go back onto the debt market and refinance at a higher cost, which is not good for the economy in the long term.
Away from that, the Minister for Petroleum, Emmanuel Ama-Kofi-Boa, has ordered for fast-tracking of the processes leading to establishment of the local content fund to the benefit of Ghanaian companies in the oil and gas industry. This comes after Parliament finally passed the legislative instrument on local content and participation in the oil and gas industry. Indigenous firms in the sector have lamented the lack of financial support from banks in their operations, a phenomenon they say only defeats the local content agenda. But Mr. Boa says this challenge should be a thing of the past once the fund becomes operational.
The local content LI 2204 at 919, which is basically the law that has replaced PND's law 84. And in that law, what is really important for us is that there's section 64 that makes provision for the establishment of a local content fund. And that fund is an answer to basically the challenges Ghanaians are facing trying to get financial support for them to compete in the industry, and so this is very, very good for local content participation and indigenous Ghanaians in the oil industry.
And this fund, where is the money going to come from?
The fund is going to come from contracts from service companies, basically, and it's going to be administered by the Petroleum Commission, and it's in the law.
And about how much are we targeting to have?
Well, I think that the modalities are being discussed by the Petroleum Commission. The details are clear, but the law is very clear on what must be done, and the Petroleum Commission is establishing those modalities, and I've called for them to fast track it.
All right, so on this same developments, let's get on the phone lines and speak with the Director Special Services at the Petroleum Commission, Kweku Boateng, to explore more about the proposed fund. Good evening, welcome to Business Live, Mr. Boateng. Hello, good evening. Can you hear me, Mr. Boateng? All right, so we're having difficulty reaching Mr. Kweku Boateng. He is the Director Special Services at the Petroleum Commission. Good evening, sir. Hello, good evening. All right, so we'll try and get Mr. Kweku Boateng, who will tell us how this fund will become operational and how Ghanaian businesses can access the fund. And we also like to know when the fund will become established for the benefit of Ghanaians in the local oil and gas industry. You're still live on Business Live. We're taking a short break. We'll be back. Thanks for staying. Welcome back. And now let's go to the phone lines and speak to Mr. Kweku Boateng of the Petroleum Commission to tell us more about the proposed establishment of the local content fund as ordered by the Petroleum Minister, Mr. Emmanuel Ama Kofi-Boah, under the local content law. And he's going to tell us how this fund will be used and for how local companies can actually access the fund. Now, good evening, sir. Welcome to Business Live. Now, Mr. Boateng, good evening. Hello, Mr. Boateng, good evening. Mr. Boateng, specifically tell us what this fund will be used for and how can local businesses have access to it. Hello, Mr. Boateng. Mr. Boateng, if you can hear me, specifically explain to us how this fund will be used and how local businesses can access the fund. All right, so it looks like we're having difficulty reaching Mr. Boateng on the line. We'll try and get to him in our subsequent bulletin tonight at 7:30 p.m. on Joy News Prime. All right, so I'm hearing Mr. Boateng is on now. Good evening, sir. Good evening, Mr. Boateng.
Good evening.
Yes, can you please explain to us what the local content fund would be used for and how can local businesses have access to it?
Can you speak a little louder? I can barely hear you.
Mr. Boateng, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, no, explain to us what is this fund going to be used for and how can local businesses access it?
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Boateng?
Yes.
I wanted to know how this fund, the local content fund proposed by the Petroleum Minister, how is it going to be used?
Yeah, let me try to, I didn't get the question very bad. Let me try to explain the Petroleum Exploration Law provides for the establishment of local content fund by the government. And the purpose of the fund is to generate money to assist the Ghanaian SMEs operating in the oil and gas sector to acquire concessionary credit to finance their operations. And if you look at the industry, access to credit has been one of the constraining factor for the growth of indigenous Ghanaian companies in providing goods and services in the oil and gas sector. You look at the sector, the average contract is in the region of $1,500 million, which is certainly beyond many small companies operating in the country. And for them to also acquire credit, they have to go through a difficult process with our banks. One, getting the credit is a hurdle. And once you get the credit, the interest rate that they charge is usually a double-digit interest rate. When governments compete with their foreign countries at one of the key objectives of the fund is to create concessionary credit on federal terms for local companies. And two, the fund will also, part of the fund will also be used to develop capacities
of
Ghanaian professionals.
Mr. Boateng.
Training. Hello?
Yes, so what will be the source of fund for this fund?
The source of fund, one, the Act provides that for every contract or subcontract that is awarded, you have to charge 1% of the contract value to the fund. All the subcontract or contract awarded in the industry, they pay 5% in the contract value to the fund, up to a certain ceiling of, I think, about $1 million per contract. Then you also, any money that's also approved by Parliament can also be paid to the fund. And other fines or by Petroleum Commission can also be put on in the fund. But the main source of the fund is expected to come from the contribution from the subcontracting in the industry.
All right, now, so how do companies who benefit from this fund repay the loan?
Now we are in the process of working out the modalities. Now there's a committee at the Petroleum Commission that is developing the modalities for raising the money for the fund and administering and accessing money emanates from the fund.
Will it not be too much?
The modalities are not being finished yet. So
okay.
Once that is done, it will be made public as to how the criteria for giving money from the fund or company accessing the fund. But it's not finished yet.
Okay, lastly, would it not be too much tasking IOCs to contribute to this fund, especially when they are already paying corporate taxes? They are paying so many taxes, variety of taxes, and as well as surface rental and other things.
Yeah, this money, in principle, is not being directly paid by the IOCs. The bank will say that the impact will fall on them because it says that the money, all the subcontractors who win contracts from the IOCs will pay the money. So as I said now, I understand that the subcontractors,
okay,
that the money it's not a tax on the IOCs for their petroleum activities.
Okay.
So it's nothing to do with the petroleum agreement.
All right.
It's just the subcontractors that won the contract that are making contribution to the fund for the development of the industry.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Boateng, for your time. Yeah. Mr. Boateng is the Director of Special Services at the Petroleum Commission. Now to other stories. Stakeholders in the retail industry say a relative stability of the Ghana cedi has had a positive effect on businesses. In an interview with Joy Business, Center Manager of the Junction Shopping Mall, Ebenezer Asari, said the relative stability has resulted in some reduction in retail prices.
With the economic decline and the instability of the cedi against some major trading currencies, many retailers have been affected negatively. Prices of retail commodities in recent times have been on the ascendancy. However, some stakeholders in the retail sector say the relative stability of the dollar in the last few quarters have resulted in a reduction in prices. Ebenezer Asari is the center manager for the Junction Shopping Mall in Accra.
The stability of the dollar is really helping matters now. Earlier on, we all realized, or we saw the depreciation of the cedi against the dollar, and that resulted in price escalations. But at the moment, the whole of this year, I think we've had just about 5% depreciation, and that is helping much. So prices have stabilized. In fact, certain tenants are cutting down prices. Aside the fact that we're in our anniversary month, the stability of the dollar, and also the fact that they need to clear their stock now to make room for the December business. So prices have marginally come down.
Speaking on the upcoming festive season, Ebenezer Asari highlighted some promotional activities the mall is offering, including the annual Joy at the Mall, powered by Joy 99.7 FM.
We're going to have various programs on Joy FM being transmitted live from Joy. Shoppers will have the chance of taking pictures with their celebrities and presenters. Aside that, there's fun games like musical chairs, cartoon characters. The kids will have chance to take pictures with their favorite cartoon characters. There's a giveaway with their goodies to be given to shoppers throughout the weekend. So I will encourage everyone. Junction Mall is the best place to be this weekend.
The annual Joy at the Mall event will be held on 11th to 13th November 2016 at the Junction Mall.
Now crossing over to get some bits of international business news, and internet company Opera has released its State of the Mobile Web Africa 2016 report, highlighting mobile internet trends across the continent, including consumer browsing behavior and app usage. Opera, known for its compression technology and mobile browsers, including Opera Mini. Now, Ghanaians, Kenyans, Seychelles, and Mauritians are the highest data users with an average usage of over 160 megabytes per month. Findings also show that visits to streaming video websites on Opera Mini in Africa have increased by 36% since 2012. Users from Tanzania, 22%, are most likely to visit YouTube, followed by South Africa 20% and Ghana 19%. South Africa ranks first in Africa in terms of app usage, with a third of its population using mobile applications, followed by 31% in Ghana, 28% in Nigeria, 19% in Kenya, and 18% in Uganda. Nigerians are regular social media users, with 70% of the country's 16 million Facebook users accessing the site via Opera Mini. And that's it for the news. We're taking a short break here. We'll be back.
Business Live today was brought to you by GCB Bank.
Now, the printing industry has been affected by some challenges, including the inconsistent supply of power. On Interview of the Day today, the Deputy MD of Adwensa Publications highlights some of these challenges and how they are affecting businesses.
Have been working for the government for a while. You know, years back, the government used to be what we publishers will call authors, publishers and printers, because the government would put together her own people to write and again publish and again print.
In terms of Adwensa,
yeah,
I'm asking this because some publishers do complain of unfair treatment and other.
Yes, I would come to that. So that is a history of it. The government used to do it originally. You know, they would do all that and then distribute the books to the schools. But I think the late 80s, there was a change, you know, where some publishers were selected. I think about 5 publishers, and Adwensa happened to be one of them. And some government textbooks were given to us, you know, to print and make them available. I think that was a pilot process which worked very well. Then later, there was this other stage which we are in now, where now government ask publishers to submit books. Books are submitted to the government, and then it goes through the process, of yes, because we are in Ghana, sometimes you would have so much confidence in a particular book, and you would probably send it to the ministry during the procurement process, and you would think that or wish that your book would be selected, but later it would come out that probably it wasn't, and there are times when you are not given reasons for, and this is what sometimes causes the ill feelings about the processes.
So the last bidding process, how was it done? Was it transparent? Was it okay?
I would say to a large extent, yes, as compared to what...
Is it because you won one of the contracts?
Well, I would say no, because we submitted not just one book, we submitted a number of books, but only one of ours was selected. But if I look at the way the whole process went, and I compare it to what used to happen, what used to happen previously, I would say that this is a better one. Even the process, apart from the selection, what the government is doing to ensure that the books are mistakes-free is great. It's a very great improvement.
So for how long are you going to be doing it for? How was the contract duration?
The books are in print now, and for this one, I guess either by close of the year or by close of the year or by early January.
Many thanks for joining me on Business Live today and of course throughout the week. My name is Emmanuel Boaji. Let's meet again, same time on Monday. Until then, have a great weekend.